Hello everyone, my name is Michael K and welcome to a replica airguns video. Today we get the chance to look at a pellet shooting replica air rifle, which we don't have the opportunity to do very often. And I want to thank Crosman for supplying me with one of these guns. Now interestingly enough, I did purchase one for myself before they sent me my sample. So what I'm going to be doing today is doing another giveaway. Since I have two of these guns, and what do I need two guns for? I don't, right? I'm going to be running a contest or giveaway, and I'm actually going to give away one of these guns to one of my Canadian subscribers and also one of my US subscribers. Now unfortunately, I can't ship outside of North America, so if you live outside of Canada or the US, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to pick favorites here, it's just the way it is. So to be part of this contest or giveaway, you're going to have to be a subscriber, of course, favorite this video, and preferably be an adult or have your parent or guardian permission to accept this prize. Alright, so getting back to this review, we are going to do a full review of the Crosman M4-177 .177 caliber multi-pump air rifle. So let's get right into it. Now this is a replica of an M4 or AR carbine. Now to give you an idea of what an AR or M4 looks like, closest thing I have is my airsoft version here. This is the King Arms Colt M4A1, and you can see they're very similar. Now this one does have the carry handle on it, but if I take that carry handle on, I'll have the open Picatinny or Weaver rail just like my M4-177 has. You can see it's very similar. I could probably put this carry handle right on the M4-177 by Crosman there. Now a little bit different, but they are very similar in their shape and design. Both of these guns have the similar forward stock, although the M4-177 by Crosman is a little longer to give you more leverage for doing the pumping that you're going to have to do. But very similar in design. Now by the way, I do have a full review of the King Arms Colt M4A1 airsoft rifle, so if you want to check that out, I'll put a link in there right now for you. Now the Crosman M4-177 is made in the USA. It does have a sort of disclaimer, and it says with some foreign components. So they obviously shop out some of the parts and get them from around the world. Now it comes in a cardboard box. I'll show you it quickly. Nothing fancy, but it does the job. You can see here we have our, where is it now? There's a little marking here. There it is. I want to show you this here. This is our 495 Canadian detuned version. So this one doesn't require a PAL. It doesn't shoot 600 feet per second like the US one. Now to be clear, I'm going to be shipping my Canadian gun that Crosman sent me to one of my Canadian winners, and I'll actually be shipping straight out of the US a non-detuned version for my US subscriber winner. Just so you know what's going on. Now I did notice here it does have this little, I want to show you this right here. It does have this little thing that says for target shooting and pest control. It's a generic box, so I imagine a 600 feet per second gun would have a better job at pest control situations. Now when I get into my chronograph portion, you'll see that this does not shoot anywhere close to 600 feet per second. So I don't really recommend this gun for pest control unless they're really small pests. Crows, I wouldn't even try it on a crow. Crows are fairly difficult to take down unless you have a fairly high powered pellet gun. Of course, you always have your manual, comes with. Now we have ours in French and English, but you might have yours in different languages, depending on where you're from. Now the gun pretty much came fully assembled. You'll notice that mine has the red dot scope here, attached to the Picatinny rail. But the gun did come with iron sights. Now these are removable iron sights, and they go on here. There's one on the front as well. I'll show you that a little bit more detailed later, but I'll just show you this now. Now this is an iron sight, so to speak. The bottom part here is aluminum, and the top part looks to be plastic. But you could put this on any gun, theoretically. And they have the peep sights, and they're flip up, so they change the different sides. Now I did shoot it with these sights, and it worked fine. There was no problem with it. But I always get better results personally when I use a red dot, and I did get pretty good results today with this gun. Alright, so let's quickly go over the specifications. Now, this gun shoots .177 caliber pellets, as mentioned before, and during my testing I used 7 grain pellets for all the testing. It's a multi-pump air rifle, so you can pump it up anywhere between 4 to 10 pumps. It's recommended by Crosman not to exceed 10 pumps. However, I do exceed 10 pumps in my chronograph test because I know you're going to do it and I know you're going to ask. And so avoiding you having to overpump these guns, I did the test for you so you can see what you get if you benefit by overpumping it. Now one thing's for sure, whenever you exceed the recommended limit on any product, you could be damaging it. Now this gun has a 5-round pellet magazine, and I'll show you that a little bit later. It also has a 350 round BB hopper with an 18-round BB magazine that is fed from the hopper. Now this is a single shot gun, so you have to pump it, pull the bolt back and forth, and also manually index the magazine to shoot each time. Unless you're using BBs, then you don't need to manually index the magazine. But everything else you have to do. You'll have to pump and pull the bolt back and forth with BBs as well. Now this has a 16.75 inch rifled barrel. It weighs 3.6 pounds. And this version, as mentioned, is the 495 FPS Canada detuned. Now in the States, it gets up to closer to 600 feet per second because you don't have the limitations of our air guns having to be under 500 feet per second if you don't have a firearms license. Now this is mostly polymer with some metal internal parts. Alright, so at this point we're going to do a little bit of a walk around, show you this gun a little bit closer up in detail. And we're going to start off with the right side since we're already here. Just like you take a quick look before I even mention anything. Not a bad looking gun. I mean, it is plastic, but it's sturdy enough. It looks pretty good in general. Alright, so that's the right side. A little bit of the top here. Picatinny rail there. Buttstock. Okay, so let's get into it a bit here. Now we do have our bolt. You pull this back, and there's no pellets in here, by the way, and then forward, and I haven't even actually put any pressure into this gun, but that allows you to then pull the trigger. So you need to do that with each shot. And then you have this magazine. Now this bolt has to be back in order to move the magazine, because you can see in here, when you move the bolt forward, it actually pushes the pellet through into the chamber. So, let's take a quick look. Now you do have to manually index this yourself, and it just kind of clicks a little bit each time, so you know where you are. It takes a little getting used to, but it's really not hard. Each click represents one notch or one pellet being fed, and then it just comes out the other side. Alright, so we'll take that, we'll leave that out for now. And by the way, your pellets just simply go in here, and they just have little tabs that hold them in. Pretty straightforward. You can get other magazines for this gun if you need them. Now there's a safety selector right here. See if I can get to it. So if you push it out, or when it's basically out on this side, the gun isn't safe. When you push it through, so it's flush on this side, the gun is ready to fire. This magazine ejector here is non-functioning. It doesn't actually eject the magazine. To get the magazine out, if you can see it here, you've got these little tabs you push in, and you just pop it out. Now the magazine doesn't really do anything. You'll see there's a little tool in there. That tool is for adjusting the front sight. I'm just leaving it all in there. They've got it packed in this foam, but you could put pellets or BBs in there if you wanted to. Alright. You have your branding there, Crosman M4-177. Now the forward assist is non-functioning, and the charging handle here is non-functioning. It's all molded in. Pretty straightforward. Now the trigger is plastic, but it seems to be fine. A little bit of flex in it, but it's not too bad. Your buttstock is multi-adjustable. You can adjust it at different positions. I like mine all the way back, but you can do whatever you want with yours. It's fairly sturdy, doesn't wobble too much. Now as you can see, we have our sight rail on top, Picatinny or Weaver style, and I have my red dot scope. This is just a basic NC Star red dot scope. I'm going to see if I can pick this up and carry it at some point. Nice little scope. I like that it has the mounts here, single mount, which is neat for this gun. It gives it a bit of height, which I like, because the gun is nice to get up and over a little bit. If this sight was lower, it would be a little bit low. It would be in the wrong position for me. But you could put anything on here. Again, you could put your iron sights back on. You could put a magnified scope, whatever you want on there. Alright, so we're going to look at the left side of the gun. Let's just get some in here in some detail. Let you see it. Just underneath here. Hitting my lamp. Alright, we have our BB loading bay. You put your BBs in here, fills up the hopper, and then this switch allows you to open up the internal 18 round magazine to feed the BBs into the 18 round magazine. Now personally, I'm not going to shoot BBs in this gun. I'm not even going to test it. I just prefer, and I've been down this road before and talked about it before, if the gun shoots pellets, has a rifled barrel, I just prefer not to shoot BBs. Whether the gun can do it or not is besides the point. I'm just going to shoot pellets. They're going to perform better, they're going to be more accurate, they're probably going to be easier on the barrel as well on the rifling than using steel BBs inside a rifled barrel. So I'm just not going to do it. If you want to shoot BBs in yours, go ahead. Not for me. So that's that. Now if you are going to shoot BBs, you will have to empty the BBs all out of this 18 round magazine before you shoot pellets again. So keep that in mind. That's another reason not to shoot BBs. Again, we have our, now this would be your bolt release. This would be your bolt release here. So you'd click this and it would make your bolt go forward on the regular AR or M4. Doesn't work here. Now here's your, you can see here, we're in safe. Sorry, we're in fire because it's got the red. I don't know if you can see it. It's a little dark. There, you can see it better there. Push that in to make the gun safe. Pop it from the other side to fire the gun. You have your warning information there. You also have your serial number and your caliber right here. And on this side here, this is where, when you feed your magazine, it comes out. Okay? Now, I did want to mention something really quick. You do have Picatinny rails on the bottom here, but they're kind of useless because when you pull this forward, you're going to be, anything that's on these would have to be very, very ultra low profile. Otherwise you can't use them. Can you imagine a foregrip being on here? Now, you may be able to partially pump it. So if you go out to there, I think that's the full range, but you're still going to be banging into there quite a bit. And I'm not really liking that idea. Alright, so at this point we're going to head outside with our Crosman M4-177. We're going to take some shots on the chronograph, and we're also going to shoot this gun at a target from about 30 feet out in a semi-rested position. Now when I do shoot it through the chronograph, I'm going to test it using the 10 pump maximum. I'm going to put 3 rounds through it just to get an average. Now I don't really need to shoot a lot of shots through this because it's not a CO2 gun, and the feet per second shots should stay fairly close together. I'm also going to shoot it using 5 pumps. And then I'm going to shoot it in an overpump situation because I know you guys are going to ask questions. And in hopes that you guys will avoid overpumping your guns and potentially damage them, I'll do it for you so you can see if there are any benefits overpumping this gun for more feet per second. Alright, so let's head outside and see how well the Crosman M4-177 does. Okay, so we've got my Crosman M4-177 multi-pump .177 caliber pellet rifle. We're going to shoot 3 rounds through this chronograph with the basic 10 pumps, so that's the maximum 10 pumps that Crosman suggests you pump this up to. And then after that, I'm going to do a little bit of an overpump situation and then an underpump situation, just to give you some ideas of the velocity. And the reason I'm going to overpump it is because I know many of you will do this anyways, even though it's not advised. You really shouldn't do it, but I'm going to do it for you so that you don't have to. Here we go. 10 pumps. Alright, shot number 1. We have our first pellet in place. Safety's off. Ready to go. 410. Now I'm just going to pump it up and then I'll move the magazine forward and cock the gun. So here we go, another 10 pumps. Shot number 2. 409, very close. Another 10 pumps. Getting tired. There we go. Alright, this is shot number 3. 10 pumps. 411, pretty close. Now I'm going to do the under pump now, 5 pumps. Alright, let's see how this one does. This is 5 pumps, so half the pumps that I've been doing. See what kind of velocity we get. 328. A lot easier to pump it 5 times. Not too bad if you're just shooting targets. Paper targets fairly close. Alright, we're going to do the over pump now. $11, $12, $13, $14, and $15. Let's see if it makes a difference. It may or may not. Last pellet out of my 5 pellet magazine, and we're going to do this one right now. Here we go. Forgot to put the bolt forward. That always helps. So 436. Now, is risking blowing this gun up or damaging it, pumping it up an extra 5 times, all that extra effort, for what appears to be a 26 feet per second increase? I don't think so. So my recommendation is just pump this gun up to 10 pumps, just like Crosman is suggesting you do. You're really not going to get a lot of gains over the 410 that we get with the 10 pumps. Alright, so let's move to the accuracy portion of this test and see how well we do. And I'm going to shoot 5 rounds into the target because it has a 5-round magazine. And I'm going to pump it up 5 times for each shot. Okay, we're all set up for the target portion of this test. Again, 5 rounds from 30 feet out in a semi-rested position. I will have the front of this gun rested on a beanbag or sandbag. I'll be standing in the back. I'm also using a red dot scope for this test. I'm going to open that up now, get it ready. So that should help a little bit with my accuracy. I always do a little bit better with the red dots as opposed to using the open sights. But I want to see what this gun can really do in terms of accuracy. Alright, so let's head back and shoot 5 rounds into this target. And again, I'm going to be using 5 pumps with each shot. Now I didn't mention this, but I am using 7 grain pellets for this testing. I use the 7 grain for the chronograph, and I'm also using the 7 grain for this target portion of the test. Shot 1, here we go. I'm just turning up my brightness for my red dot. It's a little low. Here we go. Bolt is forward. Shot number 2. Now we're not going for velocity here. We're just going for accuracy. Shot number 3. Shot number 4. Shot number 5. Alright, let's go see how we did. Well, that's a pretty fine looking target there. That's about maybe 3/4 of an inch. So really not too bad at all. Maybe even a ½ an inch. That round circle is 1.5 inches, so we're definitely under 1 inch, 3/4 of an inch. I'm not sure if the paper ripped over here. We'll see when we actually look back at the video. But that's easily at least a 3/4 inch grouping, if not a ½ inch. Again, using a red dot scope, not magnified sights, just basic red dot scope. You can actually see it right here. Alright, so we're going to head inside and we're going to finish up this review. Well, the Crosman M4-177 performed fairly well. I wasn't expecting to get right up to the 500 feet per second limit. My experience with any detune gun is that the companies tend to be very conservative when they detune these guns. What I mean by that is, instead of taking it right up to 500, they generally bring it down to closer to 400, which is what we pretty much got. Now, over pumping this gun didn't really result in any serious gains. To get another 20 to 25 feet per second, have to pump it 5 times more, put all that effort in. It actually gets a lot harder after 10 pumps. And really, we didn't get much of a gain, and we risk damaging this gun. So there's no real reason to do that with the M4-177. Now when we got into shooting this gun on the target, wow, it really did well. Now keep in mind I was not using a magnified scope, so when I have the red dot on the target, it's pretty far off and it isn't that big, so the red dot could have some variation, and we got close to a 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch grouping. Very decent grouping. I can't expect to do any better than that with an unmagnified scope of any type. So very, very pleased with the accuracy out of the Crosman M4-177. Now as I mentioned, this gun does have a little pest control icon on the box, meaning that it can be used for pest control. I would not recommend the Canadian version for pest control. And my US friends, up to 600 feet per second, yeah, you could take out some small to medium sized pests. Alright, we are going to get into the pros and the cons. I did want to mention that I don't actually sell this gun currently in the Canadian replica airgun store. I may have it for sale down the road, but at least at the time of this video I don't have it for sale in Canada. I do have it for sale in the US replica airgun store, so if you're from the United States, make sure to come down to replicairguns.com and check out the US replica airgun store. We do have it available there for you. So let's get to the pros and the cons. Now the Crosman M4-177 is one of the few replica air rifles on the market. Now of course there are airsoft guns, but when it comes to pellet and true 4.5mm steel BB shooters, there really aren't that many. And the only ones that really come to mind, and they're not really rifles, they're more PDW style or machine pistols, would be the MP5K by Umarex and the Cybergun Mini Uzi. Now they both have folding stocks, so I kind of want to put them into the rifle category, but they're not really true rifles either. Now the M4-177 is very well priced at under $100. You really can't go too wrong. Now as we found out, the Crosman M4-177 had really good accuracy. I'd love to try this with a magnified sight to see if we could do even better, but I'm very pleased with the results we got. Now it also comes with detachable and adjustable iron sights, so you can take the sight off the front or the back if you choose and just go with a simple red dot or magnified scope. It's totally up to you. I like the fact that it has an adjustable stock, very similar to what a real M4 would come with. And again, you do have the Picatinny rails on top so that you can put just about any type of sighting system that you choose. Now even though I prefer not to use BBs in pellet shooting guns, you do have the option to do that, so it's nice that Crosman gave you both options. Alright, so some of the cons. Now it's no surprise at about $100 you're not going to get an all-metal AR styled rifle. So it is mostly plastic, but it does appear to be fairly well made. And there is obviously some key metal parts inside the gun. Now as mentioned, the accessory rails on the front under portion are pretty much useless. You really can't use these two rails because they're going to butt up against each other, and I can't even think of an accessory that would work there. And lastly, again, getting back to this Canadian and US version, our Canadian version, now this doesn't apply to the US version, feet per second for the US Crosman M4-177 is respectable, and I've heard it does get right up to 600 feet per second, so very good, there's nothing wrong with that. But coming in at 400 is a little bit underpowered for some situations, like if you did want to use this for pest control. But for target shooting, nothing wrong with 400 feet per second. Alright, so that wraps up this video review of the Crosman M4-177. Again, I want to thank Crosman for sending me a demo unit, even though I didn't actually use my demo unit. Some lucky Canadian subscriber is going to get it. So again, thanks Crosman for doing that. And I will be shipping one out to a US subscriber. So again, I'm shipping one for Canadian subscribers and one for US subscribers. So make sure to get involved in that contest giveaway. Also make sure to check out my Replica Airguns website. I do have other pictures, and sometimes I cover a few other little details in my articles. So check out the article for this on my website. Again, if you are looking to purchase an airgun or blank gun or related accessory, check out my Replica Airguns website. We do ship out of Canada for my Canadian customers and out of the US for my US customers. If you're on Facebook or Twitter, make sure to check me out. My username is Replica Airguns. And of course, if you're not a subscriber, make sure to subscribe and get in on this contest as well while you're at it. Thank you for watching another Replica Airguns video, and until next time, take care.